This is not a criticism of the television show, because the Red Wedding episode is an absolutely phenomenal piece of television. It is shocking, brutal, and unforgettable. But when you compare it to the original text in A Storm of Swords, you start to see that the show's adaptation, for all its power, lost some of the depth, the foreshadowing, and the sheer gut-wrenching despair that made the scene in the books so much more impactful. The television version focused on maximum shock value, while the book delivered a slow, terrifying descent into inevitable doom. The biggest difference is the narrative perspective. In the books, we experience the entire event through the eyes of Catelyn Stark. This is important. Catelyn has been the primary point-of-view character for all of Robb Stark's campaigns. We have seen her fear, her strategic mind, and her utter devotion to her children. In this video, we will uncover Catelyn Stark's terrifying experience, the critical difference in the fate of Robb's wife, and the truth behind the famous final line, "The Lannisters send their regards." We will reveal why Roose Bolton's words to Robb in the book were far more venomous, and we will share Catelyn's heartbreaking, final thought about Ned before her throat was cut, a detail the show completely missed. Now, stay with me as I break down the chilling details of the book's Red Wedding that makes it even much sadder and brutal. Let's start with the build-up to the brutal massacre. In the books, the reader is made to experience the horror more acutely through Catelyn Stark's increasing dread. George R.R. Martin is a master of foreshadowing, and throughout the wedding feast, Catelyn's point of view notes countless subtle red flags. The mead is watery, the food is poor, the servants are clumsy, the musicians are bad. She observes Roose Bolton's strange silence and the general mood of unease. This rising sense of paranoia, a feeling that something is terribly wrong, is what makes the final betrayal so powerful in A Storm of Swords. The show gives us the threatening song, The Rains of Castamere, which is a perfect, scary moment, but the book spends many pages building a closed-in, fearful feeling inside Catelyn's mind. This makes the sudden burst of violence a release of worry that was almost too much to handle, rather than a surprise that came completely out of nowhere. Now, one of the most immediate and significant differences is Robb Stark's wife. In the show, we have Talisa Major, a Volantene healer who becomes pregnant with Robb's child. Talisa travels with Robb to the twins for the wedding of his uncle, Edmure Tully. The show makes the decision to brutally kill both Talisa and her unborn child first, with Lothar Frey repeatedly stabbing her in the belly. This scene is designed to be as shocking and emotionally devastating as possible, focusing on the complete destruction of Robb's family line and personal happiness. In the books, Robb's wife is Jane Westerling. Crucially, Jane is not present at the Red Wedding. She is left safely at Riverrun. This single difference is vital for a few reasons. Firstly, Jane being alive in the books prevents the immediate, complete annihilation of Robb's personal life in the same manner. Secondly, and perhaps more importantly, the book version does not rely on the shock value of killing a pregnant woman. The horror is instead built through different and more character-driven elements. The absence of Jane Westerling also means that the tension before the dinner is less about the immediate danger to a pregnant wife and more about the deeply dishonorable political mistake Robb made, a mistake he is desperately trying to fix by going to the wedding of his uncle Edmure to Rosalind Frey. The stakes feel less like personal revenge and more like the ultimate result of a political error, which is a main theme of the entire book series. We also know the moment of Robb Stark's death in the Red Wedding is one of the most pivotal and stomach-turning betrayals in the entire story. The way this final act plays out in the book's versus, the show highlights the subtle but important differences in the political motivations and personal relationships that George R.R. Martin established for his characters. In both the books and the television series, the betrayal is orchestrated by Lord Walder Frey, who is furious that Robb Stark broke his marriage pact with House Frey by marrying another woman. However, Lord Roose Bolton, a key vassal of House Stark and one of Robb's most trusted commanders, is revealed as the central conspirator, the man who ultimately delivers the fatal blow to his king. In the Game of Thrones series, after the slaughter has begun and Robb is mourning over the body of his pregnant wife, Talisa, Roose Bolton approaches him. Robb is wounded, distraught, and utterly defeated. The final words spoken by Roose Bolton in the show, before stabbing Robb in the heart, are, "The Lannisters send their regards." This line is icy and purely focused on the political mechanics of the betrayal. It immediately tells the audience two key things. First, that the Red Wedding was bought and paid for by the Lannisters, the chief enemy of House Stark. Second, it makes the entire massacre feel like a direct act of vengeance and power consolidation by King's Landing. However, in A Storm of Swords, the book version of the Red Wedding is far more personal and venomous due to the specific line Roose Bolton speaks and the context surrounding it. As Catelyn Stark watches in horror after the chaos of the crossbows and fighting has subsided, she sees Roose Bolton approach her son. Robb is already wounded and devastated. The final words spoken by Roose Bolton before stabbing him are, "Jaime Lannister sends his regards." The difference is crucial. Jaime Lannister, not the Lannisters. The words are slightly different, but the small change in phrasing carries enormous weight, a personal vendetta and a contractual obligation. By naming Jaime specifically, the betrayal is tied to a distinct event, the capture and subsequent release of Jaime Lannister by Robb Stark. Roose Bolton's line implies that his decision to betray Robb may have been sealed by his role in this exchange. The book version also includes a heavy layer of dark irony. Roose Bolton had been urging Robb for some time to make peace with the Lannisters and had seemed focused on saving his own house's future. In fact, Roose was the one who oversaw the exchange of Jaime for 2 Stark hostages, though Jaime's father Tywin Lannister had made a separate, much richer deal with Roose Bolton to turn on Robb. Naming Jaime in that moment is a sick, final flourish. It's a way of mocking Robb's failed attempt to use Jaime as a bargaining chip, and it emphasizes that the North's attempt at honor and negotiation was viewed by the treacherous as nothing more than a weakness to be exploited. In short, the show's line, "The Lannisters send their regards," is an effective, chilling summary of the political conspiracy, but the book's line, "Jaime Lannister sends his regards," is a far more precise and cruel instrument. It is a brilliant detail that cements the book version as a masterpiece of calculated treachery. The greatest difference, and the one that truly sets the book version apart as a masterpiece of tragic writing, is the internal experience of Catelyn Stark as she watches her son die. As said earlier, in the book, the Red Wedding is told entirely from her point of view. As the music stops and the betrayal begins, she notices the men playing the drums are not musicians. She recognizes the crossbows. Her mind races, desperately trying to understand the total breaking of the guest right law, the sacred rule of hospitality. The reader is stuck with her, feeling every sickening realization. When Robb is killed, the show depicts Catelyn in silent, mute shock, which is then followed by her throat being cut. It is a powerful image of a mother broken by grief. However, the book version is far more gruesome and psychologically disturbing. When Roose Bolton delivers the coup de grace to Robb with the chilling line, "Jaime Lannister sends his regards," Catelyn is driven completely mad by grief. She stops thinking of strategy or survival and is consumed by a primal scream of despair. She begins to viciously rake her own face with her fingernails, tearing her skin and pulling out chunks of her hair as blood streams down her cheeks. This is a deep, horrifying physical sign of her mental breakdown. She is hurting herself in a wild, endless sorrow before a knife ever touches her. Then when her throat is cut, her very last thought is not of her living children, but a small, heartbreaking detail. Before her throat was cut, she said, "No, don't cut my hair, Ned loves my hair." That single intimate thought in the face of death cuts deeper than any visual violence. It reminds us of her life, her marriage, and the woman she was before this war destroyed her. It is the perfect, tragic final sentence of a deeply flawed, but fiercely loving, mother and wife. The show, by keeping Catelyn in a state of silent shock, missed the opportunity to portray this complete, visceral psychological collapse that makes the book scene so uniquely devastating. There is also a minor, but telling difference in Catelyn's desperate attempt to save Robb. In both versions, after the massacre starts, and before Robb is killed, Catelyn grabs a hostage in a last-ditch effort to stop the violence. In the show, Catelyn grabs Walder Frey's young wife, threatening to kill her if they don't let Robb and his men go. Walder Frey merely says he will find another wife, and the hostage is killed anyway, quickly highlighting Walder's complete coldness. In the books, Catelyn grabs Aegon Frey, one of Walder Frey's grandsons, who is a simple-minded, developmentally disabled man known as Jingle Bell because of the little bells he wears. Catelyn threatens him, but Walder Frey's indifference is the same. After Robb is killed, Catelyn cuts Aegon's throat with the knife, in a final act of senseless, agonizing rage. The choice to kill a simple, innocent man is a final moment that shows how far Catelyn has fallen and how her moral compass has been completely shattered by the betrayal. It is a darker, more complex final act for her character, showing the devastating price of war on a good person's soul. Catelyn's naked corpse was tossed into the Green Fork River as a final insult. 3 days later, her body was found and dragged to shore by Nymeria, Arya Stark's direwolf, who then abandoned it when a group of humans approached. The body was found by the Brotherhood without banners. Thoros of Myr, the Red Priest who had resurrected Beric Dondarrion multiple times, refused to perform the last kiss ritual on Catelyn because she had been dead for too long, and her body was severely decomposed. However, Beric Dondarrion, feeling he still owed a debt to Eddard Stark, gave Catelyn the kiss of life, transferring his own life force to her and dying permanently in the process. The conditions of her resurrection, being dead for 3 days and the nature of the magic, left her in a state of a conscious, vengeful undead. She lost her former empathy and kindness, retaining only her all-consuming rage and desire for vengeance against the Freys, Boltons, and Lannisters. Her throat wound never healed, so she must cover it to speak in a hoarse, croaking whisper. She then assumed leadership of the Brotherhood, turning their focus entirely to brutal retribution as the spectral figure known as Lady Stoneheart. The difference in how Robb Stark and his direwolf, Grey Wind, were were treated after the Red Wedding shows how truly evil the betrayal was. It wasn't enough to just kill the young king. His enemies wanted to insult his memory and terrify everyone who was still loyal to him. Robb's direwolf, Grey Wind, was a massive, loyal animal that went everywhere with him. At the wedding feast, the Freys made Robb keep Grey Wind chained up outside the main hall because they claimed the wolf was too dangerous. When the slaughter started inside, the Frey men immediately attacked Grey Wind outside. In the show, the wolf is shot with crossbows and killed quickly as he tries to break free to help Robb. In the books, the death is more dramatic and painful for Robb's mother, Catelyn. She is trapped inside and has to listen to the sounds of Grey Wind fighting fiercely, killing several men before he is finally overwhelmed by arrows and spears. This emphasizes the wolf's extreme loyalty and the difficulty the Freys had in killing him, even when he was chained. After both Robb Stark and Grey Wind were killed, the Freys and the Lannister allies committed a final, disgusting act of disrespect. They cut off Robb Stark's head and also cut off Grey Wind's head. The Frey men then sewed Grey Wind's head onto Robb Stark's body. This act of switching Robb's head with his wolf's was more than just a brutal act. It was a powerful statement meant to break the Northern people. The direwolf is the symbol of House Stark. By putting the wolf's head on Robb's body, they turned the king in the north into a monster and a joke. They were mocking everything the Starks stood for. This act showed that they were not just killing Robb, but they were trying to completely wipe out the honor and identity of the Stark family. The Starks and their direwolves were linked, and mutilating them together was a final, terrible way to crush their spirit. The mutilated body was then put on display. This was meant to be a terrifying message to anyone in the north who still thought about fighting the Lannisters. It was a clear warning that if you rise up against them, you won't just die, but you will be publicly shamed and dishonored forever. While the television version of The Red Wedding delivered one of the most iconic, shocking moments in TV history, the book version is a superior piece of storytelling. It achieves its impact not just through bloodshed, but through the detailed portrayal of a good woman's complete psychological and emotional annihilation, the demonstration of deeper political and military consequences, and the perfect, heartbreaking final lines. Now I want to hear from you. We talked about Robb Stark's big mistakes, the marriage and trusting Roose Bolton. What do you think was the single biggest mistake Robb Stark made that sealed his fate? Was it falling in love, or was it the moment he trusted a man known for being cold and calculating? Let me know your answer in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this video, kindly like and subscribe to the channel for more deep dives. See you in my next upload.